Outer Orange. Card gamers, I went the wrong way. Oh my gosh, doesn't matter. Welcome back. I just had a bunch of mochi and a bunch of Japanese dinner, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about Bermuda Triangle. This list that I'll be talking about is about to get banned, but I wanted to make this video mainly just as a kind of reminder to myself, just sort of the fun that I had with this deck if I ever want to look back on it, as this was one of the funnest decks that I've ever taken in V, ever piloted in V, and this is the Prism Highlander V Premium deck for Bermuda Triangle. One of the funnest decks I've ever had, and I kind of want to express to you guys the text and kind of things that this deck was doing. Might help you in recreating your current Prism decks, because obviously Highlander Prism is completely banned, probably won't be coming back. It is choice restricted. I really doubt they're going to unrestrict it, because this deck would just get better and better with each card coming out, as it just can pilot a lot of stuff, and it's just a really fun and very strong deck. And I want to talk to you guys today about it, kind of give you my insights. I was going to make this video anyway in case I took this to Springfest, so this video is going to happen eventually, but now I don't think people do this very often, but this is pretty much my banned deck profile. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go. All right, so the deck box I've been using for this is the Rent a Girlfriend deck box. This is gonna sound super strange, but this deck box smells really nice on the inside. I know I don't normally bring this up, but I swear that it smells nice. It even makes your car smell nice. It is the weirdest thing, but I love it. But anyway, Rent a Girlfriend. I love this deck box. I just put it on this deck, and I've just been in love with it ever since. This deck box we're using, and then the sleeves. I've changed the sleeves out. Actually, it used to be the Wings Joker sleeves, and then I put in the Ash Blossom sleeves on it just because of my recent obsession with Yu-Gi-Oh. So that is what I did here. So that is what these are, and they're really fun. Just really creative. They actually have like an ombre type of style where they go from like a color on the corners. They change color. This one isn't as represented well. Color is brown to black, but there's other sleeves that they create, that this company creates, that it's more obvious, where you go like a dark pink to a light pink. It just looks really nice. So I'm going to start with our grade 4s, since you do run grade 4s in this deck, and that is the Prism Legendary Duo Nectaria. Now this is really important in this deck, especially. Other decks maybe not so much, but the Highlander Prism deck really utilizes this. Card says from hand you can bind this card, search any normal unit from your deck and bind it. So that means that you are increasing the chances of your Q-Tire hitting with this. What it does is it literally lowers your deck, so it increases your, so you can bind stuff that you have more than one copy of, and then you can just go in and it one a deck thins. So a deck thins, and then it grabs what you need to your bind zone, and then you can bind other stuff too. So late game, you can, if in case you grab it to another copy of this, you can actually bind other stuff. Like you can bind an Aqua, Weasel, whatever's in your deck, you can bind it. So this card's just absolutely amazing. It does have a secondary scale. It's secondary scale when it's on rear guard. If you have a copy of herself bound, she gets 10k, which is pretty nice. I actually did use it a couple times. But on Vanguard, it also gets a triple drive. So you're never gonna get into this, but if you were to, she does gain additional drive, and she swings for 24k, and it's interesting. She's best, of course, on rear guard. Late game, if you want to do her with another grade 2 that we'll be talking about, you will combo out with a front row on top of this. This is going to be the best attacker that after your first 2 attacks in Vanguard attack. This will be one of the best attackers. It's really rare when you do that. You're mainly doing it for the bind, because the bind is just so freaking good. In case you brick and don't see any binds at all, and you weren't used to see binds, this is another way to just help you unbrick, and it's just really good. I think the only downside to card is that it doesn't have any shield, but that's really it. Other than that, it's literally a one of something else in your deck. It's just amazing. Next, of course, we run Vert. So here is Vert. I think I should mention this, but this deck is pretty much max rarity. The only thing that isn't is the triggers, and I have half and half, and the reason I don't have the triggers max rarity is because I just can't find them. But anyway, so here's Prism Image Vert. So Vert is the boss unit of the deck. Very important card. Her skill says Soul Blast. You bind a card with Prism's card name, she gets an extra drive. It can be from the board, or it can be from your drop zone, preferably the drop zone, but if you have to, you can also use the board as well. So you pretty much get triple drive on the skill, which is already amazing. And then she has a secondary skill. Says when she attacks, you can cast return your front row units. Any units, doesn't necessarily have to be a normal unit, can be whatever you want. And then you call 2 units from your bind zone with different card names to the board that are Prism units. And if you're a grade 3 or greater, you call 2. If you're not grade 3, if your opponent's not grade 3 or greater, you call 1. So essentially, on your first grade 3 ride, you can only have 1 extra attack. If you and your opponent are grade 3, you can have 2 extra attacks, and they have to be different card names. You cannot call the same kind of unit. Something to keep in mind is very important. Pretty much is your boss unit. She gets you a bunch of draw. She gets you multiple attacks, and she just kind of goes crazy. She sounds she's actually not as terrible as she sounds. It's really her support that kind of carries her, because her triple drive is nice and all, but the other cards also give you deck searches and draws and extra power and all the stuff like on top of the triple drive. So that's kind of what makes this whole engine insane. Then I run Q-Tire. So here's Q-Tire. This is part of the Highlander engine. You use this to bind. hand, so that way Q-Tire hits more. This we'll kind of talk about in depth, but pretty much her skill says you claim you name a card. So you can name like Prism, Image, Vert. Then you keep looking at the top of your deck until you see Verts, until you see this exact card that you claimed. The only thing that stops you if you see a secondary copy of something else. So say during your search you see 2 Aquas. That's it. Your search is done. You shuffle your deck. It's over. However, if you keep searching your deck and you hit this, then you get to put it into your hand and good for you. And then you can, bounce this card again and actually do it again if you really want to. But pretty much this secures you to get anything you want from the deck, because Prism herself, the Prism engine, deck thins so much, and you have this Nectaria here that helps you with deck thinning even more. On top of the fact that you're drawing a lot of cards, you will usually hit Q-Tire. Is that you won't miss with this card. It happens, but you won't miss. Another thing, you can actually go for 4 ofs. So say you claim like, I don't know, like Vert, and you have all 4 in deck. Like, as long as you hit the first one, you're fine, right? So as long as you hit it. So sometimes you can even deck in for things you need. So you can be like, oh, I really need Rosa right now, so let me just claim that, or I need Nectaria, let me claim that, or let me claim any other deck, any card that I have more of. You can go after those cards and get them, so that way you can set up. So sometimes I've had situations where I don't see half my engine, I use this card, I claim what I need, I get it, and then I can do what I need to do. Sometimes you gotcha, like in a really rare case, sometimes you have to luck gotcha for it, but so most of the time it just kind of works. And worst case scenario, if you miss, it's kind of whatever. You put this on a force marker, she's attacking for 23, and then you're gonna bounce her back and just do it again next turn. So she's really bonkers. Last but not least, I do run 1 Orange. So this is Perfect Performance Orange. She is mainly here she is mainly here as a going first type of option. It's kind of like a hit or miss. You see her, you use her, you don't, you just kind of move on with your life. It's kind of whatever. The reason being is that this was really good against VANGUARD matchups. So this card says when she attacks, counterboss 1, bounce your whole board. Essentially, you bounce either player's side, preferably your side. If you bounce 4, you get all her skills. If it's 2 or more, she gets 10k. If it's 3 or more, you get additional force marker. If it's 4 or more, you get to pick any card from your deck and call to the board. Essentially, what's the best thing you can do is you swing with her, you bounce everything, you call Q-Tire, use Q-Tire skill, get whatever you need, and then you bring it to hand. You prepare for next turn on top of getting 2 force markers. So you have 4 attacks and you have 2 force markers. What's really nice about this is going from Orange into Vert is just super clean, because by the time you get to Vert, you will actually have 3 force markers and you'll be in really good shape. This is really good against matchups that can't handle the pressure of your numbers increasing. So this is just really good to add on to that. This is an insanely good going first card. If you're going second, I do not recommend this, because you're already down a turn and you kind of just need to start setting up for your draws, because the deck does not, really need to get to the point where you can draw a lot, and this helps you because you can bounce your board, but it doesn't secure you as much draw as Vert does, of course, with the whole engine. So yeah, this is definitely a going first card. I've actually won on this card. I have no idea how. I literally like bounced, swung, did whatever, and somehow I won the game. The opponent lost. I really don't know what happened there, but regardless, sometimes you'll randomly, I guess, win on this turn, but this is just your farming turn. Having 1 force marker is a big feels bad moment. Sounds good on paper, but having 1 force marker sucks. Probably one of the biggest weaknesses to Vert, and it's not, I'm saying that very lightly, because Vert is very strong. Like this whole deck is very strong, but having access to as many force markers as possible will accelerate your game a lot faster, because the attacks are not that crazy in numbers. However, if you don't see any force markers at all, or if you only see your first round, just don't see anything else, you'll notice that your deck just isn't doing enough, and you're getting close to deck out, and your opponent might kill you before you can kill them. So that's why you want to run stuff like this to kind of help with that engine. Going into our grade 2s, we got a lot to talk about here. Start with the 4 ofs. Prism Image Prism Image Rosa. So her skill is very simple. It says one place counterboss 1, top 7 for 2 Prism units. Add 1 to hand, bind 1. If you only get 1, you choose which option you want to do. You can bind it or you can put it to hand. This is your deck filter card. She filters like crazy good, because you have this as a target, this is a target, and then the grade 1 as a target. So you have a lot of targets, and she usually hits. She's pretty solid. She has a secondary skill though, which is also really good. Her secondary skill is when she's playing for bind zone, your front row gets additional 10k. And keep in mind, you can do this after Vert. So you can swing with Vert, call out your 2, call this out, and then use her skill as it's 1 place. It doesn't say when, just as long as it's 1 placed, you can do it. So you can do this after bind, you can do this before bind, you can do this whenever you want, and you can spam it as well, as long as you have the counterboss for it. So she's just insane. Really adds to that engine. The 10k front is important. Next, I run 2 Aqua. Aqua really utilizes a lot of this engine, but you can't run 4 because this is a Highlander build. Like, I would love to run 4. You can kind of get away with 3, but I personally I wanted to hit with Q-Tire as much as possible. So I ran her as 2 copies, and then I ran crappier versions of Aqua as my secondary option. So Aqua is pretty solid. She says during your turn, if you have another unit in the same combo as her, she gets 5k, so it's like Pretend Harmony. So she becomes a 25k attacker on a force marker, and then her other skill says when placed, you can take a normal unit from the board, bounce it back to hand, draw a card, discard. So essentially, you can discard your units, like you can discard your Prism units, and then your Prism skills activate because you want them more dropped than on the board, and you kind of keep going. This is a hard once per turn, just something to keep in mind. You can also bounce Q-Tire, and then you can use Q-Tire, then you can use Q-Tire to grab Aqua, and then use Aqua skill to bounce Q-Tire, to then use Q-Tire to grab grab something else. And that's also insanely good. Very good combination here. And then, you know, you can also bounce like this, like all your odd base abilities, and then reuse them if you need to. You can bounce like a counter charger ability, whatever you need, you can bounce and you use it again. And it's just really solid. Runner or two, wish I could run her more, but I don't. Now let's go into my crappy versions of Q-Tire. So this is a new, crappier versions of Aqua. This is a new versions of Sierra. So Sierra I just recently put in. I had a different card in here. Sierra's originally put in because Sierra's just really good. This just came out, so this is like the new thing. I practiced with this, I guess, at locals recently, and it was actually really stupid strong. So she says, when placed on Van or Rear, you can discard a card from hand, look at top 3 cards, choose one card from them, add it to your hand, put the rest of the bottom in any order, and then she gets 5k. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is great 3 or greater, she gets 10k instead of 5, so she becomes a 30k attacker on a force marker. But the other skill is insanely bonkers. So you can discard something like this if you have an extra copy. Look at top 3, grab whatever you want. It could be a perfect guard, it could be a trigger, it could be a unit you need, it could be whatever you want. And then the other two go to the bottom, right? So then you can bounce with Aqua and then do it again. And maybe again, you're setting up your hand, you're filtering your hand, fixing your hand, whatever. And then the craziest part is a lot of this deck shuffles. Then whatever you know is at the bottom, you can either keep it there or you can shuffle it. So you can actually prepare for what is coming. So like say you saw like 4 triggers at the bottom, at your top 4. Now you're aware that maybe you're not gonna hit your triggers in a drive check, maybe let you think through your game plan a lot. The fact that you just know what is on the bottom is just really important because it's just more knowledge to what is currently in your deck versus the 4 cards at the bottom or 3 cards, whatever, however many times you do this card skill. You just kind of know like exactly like what you already seen and what you're going to see in it. My other crappy Aqua card. So this is her skill. This is Pachiri, I think her name is. Pachiri, here she is. Her skill says, Vanguard, Soul Blast. Once per, it's an act. You can give this unit 5k, and so she becomes a 25k attacker, just like Aqua. Also, this becomes a 25k attacker, just like Aqua. This actually gets even higher late game. Anyway, so then you can also Cow Blast, give your Vanguard 5k. So why in the world do I run this card? I actually get this question asked a lot. So there are situations when you ride first, when you hit vert first, and there are situations where you just don't Soul Blast, you say you ride up to the grade 1, you ride up to the grade 2, and then you ride into Vert. You Soul Blast once for Vert skill to bind something, but then you need to Soul Blast again to have a prism in drop in order to activate clear skill. If you don't do that, you will actually miss out on an entire draw. You'll miss out on some extra plussing that you can do, and it kind of screws you. This card saves you from that exact situation. So this is like kind of like a high roll type of engine, but she saves you from that. Because she Soul Blasts herself, gives herself 5k, becoming an Aqua attacker. She also Soul Blasts the card that you need in your drop to then bind later with other prism skills. So it's just really necessary sometimes. Not always, it's just sometimes it's necessary, and that's why she's in here. It's kind of like a, oh no, I'm in a bad spot. I run into this card, oh my gosh, now I'm saved. There are situations prism can brick, and actually can brick really hard. If you don't see stuff in bind, and if you don't see stuff in your drop that are prism units, you actually can't do anything. You need to see your stuff as soon as possible, and this is one of the ways to see that. Now there's another thing. She does give Vanguard additional 5k if you counter blast. So if you're in a situation where you're really open on counter blast and you can afford to use it, it actually makes your vert higher. So your vert will become an 18k attacker plus the rows of front row, which will now make her 28k attacker. And then if you, 28k attacker. And then if you put a booster behind her, now she's suddenly even higher. And it makes her even more harder to guard, and she has a triple drive on top of that. So with a booster behind her, if it's an AK, it'll make her 36, right? I think I got that right. 28 plus 8 is 36. So she'll become a 36 attacker. Your opponent now, when they put down like a trigger, which will be 28 normally, now it doesn't guard anymore. They actually need to drop like another card or multiple cards, and it'll actually kind of secure the game as well. It's very rare. The counterblast you'll almost never use, but it is something you can have access to. So I run her as my other crappy Aqua. Then we have Sonata. Sonata is just straight in here because when she attacks Vanguard, she's a 5k. It's another version of Aqua. It essentially just makes numbers if you need to make numbers, which you do need to make numbers in this deck. You do not want to be hitting for baby numbers like 10ks or something like that. You don't want that. That's terrible. This is pretty much your other win con. This is the I win harder button kind of win con. So this against lore players, again, is really good. Against other decks that can't keep up, this just craps on them. And if you can Q-Tire for them, go ahead. If you want to play the damage game, this is solid. Sometimes you'll high roll into this where you'll just draw them and you can just instantly start activating them. I will caution you, this is a double-edged sword. The reason why I say this is, so these pretty much what they do is they give each other 18k and a crit. That's pretty much what they give each other. When they attack, they're attacking for 28k with the crit. On force markers, it could be even higher, it could be 38, blah, blah, blah. The issue with this is, say your opponent's at like 2 damage. and you start with these like early on and you give them the damage and they hit defenses, you're pretty much shutting down your turn, not their turn. Well, you're shutting down your turn, and everything you do after that just doesn't matter. So these can be a double-edged sword. These are best at when your opponent is at 4 damage, because it forces your opponent to have to guard these. If they don't have to guard these, sometimes there's no reason to bring these out. Of course, sometimes you'll see these in damage, just pretend they don't exist. They just don't matter anymore. If they fall into damage, that's it. This is clear. I've talked about this whole time. So this is the other prism units. Now we have all 4 present. These are all 4 of them. This one says when she's placed on Vanguard, you look at top 7 for one prism unit that is a grade 2 raider, so you can't pick up herself. Can't pick up herself, but you can pick up the 2, the 3, or the 4. This is a really good early search, because going in this into this, you could potentially get 3 cards. It's you know, sometimes you miss, but you can potentially get up to 3 cards. So this is really good, because say you don't have this, well, guess what? This just got you this. Or say you want this, then you know, if this searches out this is perfect. Or say you don't have a ride target, oh, guess what? This just got it for you as well. So it lets you run weird ratios, because this ride up literally searches you everything you need, including riding up itself. There's been situations where I don't have a 2. Oh, I hit my 2 with this, solid, now I have a 2. And then her other skill says when she's put onto the board after being bound, you can find another prism unit and then draw a card, and she gets 10k out. This is extremely important. This is what I was talking about. You can miss the skill very easily when you're going first, because usually you won't see a prism unit that quickly. You have to kind of guard a certain way, and kind of do things a certain way, and then you have to have the open Caraboss reverse skill. You actually have to think it through to make sure that you have a prism unit in your drop for this skill, because you'll soul blast with this and get 1 prism unit, but you have to instantly bind that prism unit that you're soul blasting if you don't have one in drop already. And then if you want this skill to go off, you have to have another prism unit in your drop to activate this. So usually the best route is you literally just guard with one of your prism units and call it a day. But let's say you don't have that and they're both in your soul. That's when this card comes in right here, the soul blast card. That's where this card comes in handy, because this will give you the draw on top of her becoming a 15k attacker. And then if you have the Caraboss, if you really want to, you can also Caraboss it as well. So that's where you want that sauce. That's where that extra sauce kind of comes in. That's why I run this card, because sometimes you need to soul blast twice, and sadly there really isn't any good soul blasting units in Bermuda Triangle that's not coral related. This is one of the best ones. Run 3 Ellie. I only run 3 because I can't afford to run 4 in this deck, because of Q-Tire. I do not want to constantly keep recycling them to the point where Q-Tire stops hitting, so I run 3 exactly. I've had no issue with this card at 3 whatsoever. Of course running it at 4 is definitely better, but I ran it at 3 just because I want Q-Tire to still hit. So I ran some kind of like other techs that kind of play like Ellie just to kind of help out with that, but I ran 3. Ellie's really good. If you place on a guard circle, pretty much you get an additional 10k if you have another one in drop that you put in the bottom of the deck. So that's why I was saying, since you recycle her, if you recycle too many, like say you have 1 in hand and 2 in 1 in drop and 1 in deck, if you recycle 1 from drop to deck, now you have 2. That means Q-Tire could potentially not hit, as long as you don't shuffle. If you don't shuffle and they're at the bottom, you're fine. But say you do shuffle at some point and they're both in deck, now Q-Tire has a chance of not hitting, and we don't really want to see that too much, so that's why I run the 3. Now she has another skill. When she hits, you can search your deck for 1 and put it into your hand, and you retire the one that's on the board. If it's on Vanguard, of course it just stays on Vanguard. Pretty nice stuff. This is a pretty good card. It's just really good shield, really good value, and you know, like a lot of people run this at 4. I just run at 3 because I like my gacha hitting. I just like my gacha hitting. I don't want to be that lucky. I don't want to play that lucky game. The more this hits, the more I'm winning. So the less this hits, the less I'm winning. 2 Spiana, another one of those cards that you may want to run more of, but I run it at 2. This is Spiana. She says when she's placed, if you have, you can send 1 card from your drop zone back to deck as the same name as, pretty much the same as your Vanguard or Rearguard. So if you have a Vert on the board and you have 1 in your drop, you can send the Vert back, and then you can countercharge and shuffle your deck. Now you can also send Heal Guardians back this way. So if you have a Heal Guardian back on the board, you can also send 1 from your drop back to the deck and shuffle, so you can send Heal Guardians back. This is an amazing card. The biggest thing is probably the counter charge more than even the recycling, but there's actually other cards that recycle. We're going to talk about them here real quick, but first let me talk about my little version. This is my Ellie version. This card is called Rebel Faith, and pretty much what she says is if you have 2 force markers, she becomes a 15k attacker with a 15k shield total, so she gets 5k power, 5k shield, so she becomes a 15k shield, so she becomes a trigger. She has a secondary skill. If you have 3 or more force markers, you actually can intercept with her from the back row, so she can, if she's in the back row somewhere, you can intercept with her, so you can put her behind Vert. She will become an insane booster, and then if your opponent tries to smack you down, you can just intercept with her and you're solid. The second condition will almost never happen, but the first condition will happen. Rainier Steza is similar to Spiana. Her skill says at the end of the battle she boosted Vanguard. Keep in mind it has to be behind Vanguard. You cannot put it anywhere else. But if she boosted Vanguard, you can retire her to draw a card. But then you can also counterblast. Put a grade 3 from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck and draw another card. So you can essentially put back heal triggers, you can put back birds, you can put back Q-tires, all that fun stuff. So essentially it's another heal cycler. But wait, there's more. There's also Vanessa. Now Vanessa is a stupid card. She sounds really bad on paper until you try her out. You can run this at 4 copies in any deck as long as you have heal guardians. This card will proc so much. Her skill says at the end of the battle that she attacked or boosted. So keep in mind you can attack, it's rear guard only, but you can attack with her. You can put a grade 3 or greater card from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, and then you put her into soul and you draw a card. So she replenishes soul for you, you draw a card, and you send grade 3s back to deck. So you can send your heal guardians back to deck. Again, playing the same concept as Spiana, she sends heals back to deck, she draws you a card, and she also gives you a soul. So this is essentially a soul charge, a draw, and you recycle heals. This is insanely good. This is a really good card. She just recently got reprinted. I highly recommend, this is a promo, I recommend getting into this card. I run her in so many of my decks. This is beautiful. At least I run a regular normal unit perfect guard. The reason why I run this one over the other perfect guards is because Q-Tire can actually search this out. So if you're facing Uranus matchups, if you're facing matchups where you need that perfect guard, you know, maybe it might be Genesis, might be Uranus, might be Melody, it might be something, anywhere that you think you need a perfect guard, you can search it out with Q-Tire. Her name is Inez. You just straight up, you know, call the Q-Tire, search for this, get it. Now you have a perfect guard in hand. It's pretty much guaranteed perfect guard as long as your deck is thin enough. You won't, you know, this is just one of those situations where, do I really need this? I do? Okay, cool. Make you tired and grab this. This is one of your, I need to grab this type of card. So that's that. And that's pretty much all the random stuff. And let me just quickly discuss like what you want to Q-Tire for. So when you Q-Tire, you want to pretty much grab Aqua, you want to grab Ellie, you want to grab your perfect guard. Now, if you're in bad situations where you need to countercharge, Spiana, say you really need shield, Revival Faith, say you need to recycle your heals, you can grab Vanessa, you can grab Steza, you can grab Spiana. Say you need to win, you grab the Pearl Sisters, maybe you need some attackers, or maybe you need to recycle more, you can grab the new Sierra card. Say you really need prism units, you can search for these. Say you need Nectaria, you can grab the Nectaria and then bind it. By the way, you can't grab triggers with Q-Tire. Just I thought I'd bring that up in case people don't know. I'm gonna put triggers over here. We have the rest of the perfect guards, there they are. You want 3, obviously the 4th one is right here. Heal triggers for the 4 heal guardians, since we can literally recycle these endlessly. Once the cycling starts, it just kind of doesn't stop. So this, of course, you want to run all 4. There's no reason to run the other ones. There just isn't a reason. Just don't do it. And then after that, I just run crits. So I run 9 crits total, since I can get away with it with a grade 1. And then you want your quick shield, and then you want your starter, just like that. That's pretty much it. So yeah, 9 crits. I grade 4 heal, 3 draw PGs, and then you have the other PG here. Keep in mind, if you ride this, you actually still get to draw, discard. On Vanguard, it says draw, discard. You draw once for her skill, and then you discard hers, but keep in mind the starter will also draw your card, so you draw 2 and discard 1. It's actually really nice in case you need to get through your deck really fast, and in case you see an early prism unit, this activates. So this is also just good as a ride target if you have nothing else. She's a 7k. You can also, if you really want to deny damage, like say you're facing DI, and you never want to give DI a counterblast. Whenever you face DI, just little tips about DI. I don't know how they are now with the new stuff, because the amount stuff has kind of pushed it better in terms of their support for the grade 2 and the grade 1. However, if they are still running Emblem Master, and you know that they're going to play Emblem Master, if you place this down as a 7k, you're attacking to the 8k, you should never give them a counterblast, because Emblem Master really pushes their deck like really hard. So you can deny Emblem Master. You can also deny Spike Brothers. You can deny Grand Blue. There's a lot of cards that are currently in V Premium that are grade 2 that say when plays counterblast, do something. And this card does go around that kind of stuff. So you can put a booster in the back somewhere, so that way you only swing and just barely hit. It doesn't, like I said, this isn't an always thing. This is kind of like a meta call thing, but sometimes it is actually good to not give a counterblast. I could give another example. Another example is actually Angel Feather. They're about to get hit, so it doesn't really matter. But Angel Feather is another card where they had the grade 1, they had the grade 2 combo. The grade 2 Jockfield counts the counterblast, do whatever. So you can pretty much search out whatever you wanted with the grade 1, the grade 2 combo. If you deny them that early counterblast, it slows down their engine to where they have to rely on their draw to hit their pieces. All this little weird stuff you can do. So you'd be surprised at the magic of denying a counterblast on specifically when your opponent rides to grade 2. So that's my little talk there. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. I'm not gonna go into like combos or anything like that. I strictly just kind of want to do this just to kind of show you guys that this deck exists, and that's cool. One of my favorite decks that I've ever played in V Premium by far. I think the only deck that was like up there with this deck was honestly Kokaitis back when I first got into the game. But that's pretty much it. I'm gonna end it here. Sorry if I kind of went on rant. I don't know if I went on any rants, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been really fun. For those of you guys that are prism players, player out there that play Highlander stuff, thank you for playing Prism Highlander. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. I'm sorry that the deck is dead. It's probably going to stay dead. I don't see this coming back. It's unfortunate because it's really fun. But the deck does have a really high ceiling, and I definitely see why they had to tap it. Also, just to keep this card in Highlander and Highlander only, I see why they kind of want to tap it. This card should only be in Highlander. But other than that, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like my McDonald's mat or anything else that I did. You've probably seen this deck pop up on VG Top Decks, so don't forget to check out any more, because there's a bunch of videos with my decks when my deck was on there. So check out WCC with Kai and all that fun stuff. So check out that stuff. But other than that, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. I'm gonna head out. If you have any questions, concerns, or any comments or anything you feel like talking about, maybe you can tell me your Prism experiences, or I'm gonna peace out. I'm gonna say my das vidanya. I hope you guys have fun. I'll see you guys in the future video, whatever it is that I'm doing. Other than that, bye.